1954, a simpler time.
Podcasting.
It's a sport of violence, exclusion, and degradation.
A more innocent time.
Make sure you pick the bigger, stronger kids for your
show.
That way, you can all gang up on the weaker ones.
Today, there are those who are born to be champions.
Here at Globo Gym, we're better than you, and we know it.
And then, there are these guys. The soul of Detroit.
You asked it around, you touch it around my face. It's gone.
What are you doing? Come on.
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now?
Hello, boys and girls. ML Elrick is still, I guess, gallivanting off in Greece, in Europe, having a grand old time.
Santorini.
He is in Santorini now.
Well, he was in Santorini.
Okay.
That was in a village where his wife was from. Her parents are from, I think.
He just uses that as an excuse. He really just wants to be away and be somewhere in Europe.
Been a long journey for him.
I know. He should be back next week, but we do have another amazing person to fill in, one of our favorite. It is Eli Zaret. Hello, Eli.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
I wanted to ask you guys right off the bat, do you remember where you were 30 years ago today? Go.
No.
1994, June 17th.
No.
Everybody remembers where they were when you say it was the OJ chase.
Oh, yes, the OJ chase.
You really don't remember, Shawn, where you were?
Oh, I remember where
Somewhere
I was
in Ann
for that.
Arbor.
I think it must have been on a Monday. I think I was at a charity golf outing and heard about it when I was driving home and then saw it when I got home. Is that possible?
That would be very possible because it would have been at night. There was a lot of stuff that happened that day. 30 for 30 has a great documentary on it. Just called June 17th, 1994, because it had the OJ chase, it had the Rangers, had their championship parade, Game 5 of the finals, which obviously was split screen with the OJ chase.
Knicks Rockets.
Yeah, Houston and New York. Yeah. See, you do remember.
That I remember.
Only you, Shawn Windsor, would remember like the basketball game and not the biggest cultural moment of the time.
Well, no, what I remember about that is that Jordan retired the year before, and the league just felt different. The finals felt different. The Knicks were not a particularly fun team to watch. Remember, they were bruising. They were kind of like the Pistons without the offense. The bad boys without the... So, yeah, and Akeem was going for his first. Yeah, I remember all that.
Were you the one person that was upset that the split screen had the chase on there?
I'm sure I was.
You just wanted to watch the basketball game?
I did. I'm sure I was.
What are you talking about? That was a huge moment.
Well, it was not just a huge moment, but the drama didn't end for 2 more years.
That's true. But I remember why, because I would have been in high school. That my senior year had just ended, and I still remember the 2 people I was hanging out with while it was going on. Chris Horn and Lindsey Burkett.
You were probably fascinated by that, right? I remember thinking, I can't believe this is newsworthy. Little old me, right? What did I know?
You didn't think OJ being chased with
Eli,
the world watching?
Shawn. No,
wouldn't have been a memorable moment.
I understood why people were interested, but I was just. To me, it felt like a voyeur, a gawker, and
it was,
and it wasn't for me. But I understood why it was a big deal.
Everything we do is voyeurism and gawking, from sports to whatever.
Yeah, but watching somebody's life fall apart in real time, I just didn't want anything to do with it.
Oh my God,
that's how I felt.
Well, and it wasn't
that's so Shawn of you.
It was he. I mean, the fact that he's talking about committing suicide. He's in the backseat of his car.
He never was going to.
He had just slashed the throats of 2 people. It was inconceivable, unimaginable. The juice was an icon. It would. I'm trying to think of a similar, well-known, admired celebrity that was everyone knew. 100% of the people knew who he was and thought highly of him. Would be a slashing murderer for
future NFL Hall of Famer and actor. I mean, he was a big actor too.
But remember at that time too. First of all, I was a newspaper person back then. I was not a sports person, although I did love.
Where were you? Where were you at? What were you doing?
I was freelancing, trying to get a full-time job in the business, and so I was a news person. I understood the news value, but at the same time, remember what the climate was back then. The idea of sensationalism wasn't that old at that point. So it felt like, wow, is this what is happening to our news? Are we not going to?
I got it.
I mean, it started in the 80s, probably, right? But
no, I think it goes out. And I'll give you an example. I remember I told you off the air. I went to this Titanic exhibit yesterday. The reporting on that was sensational gawkerism. You know, all the newspaper that we were in one room and they had like all the newspaper headlines. I'm like, yeah, we like disasters back then. We like these crazy stories. And there
was a difference though. That was a ship and all those people perished, and it had to do with technology and could you sail in that way and be safe and all the But
there were a lot of made up stories that came out of it.
It was because he was a celebrity, and that was it. And that really sort of started in the 80s, maybe.
Well,
but this was still the early 90s relatively, right, Eli?
You had the Lindbergh kidnapping. I mean, that's because he was a celebrity and his baby was kidnapped. And that was, the crime of the century at that time.
Right. But
I think as human beings, we've always been drawn to stories like that. It's weird.
Well, of course we have. But I'm just remembering at that particular time, young journalist trying to get into serious news. And it just felt like news was going to get hijacked. There were a lot of TV programs. What were some of the night news magazines?
Hard copy, Insight.
Yeah, all those sorts of things were starting to come on, and I just didn't like any of it at that point.
One thing that you're also maybe overlooking is that the technology was still pretty new. Back now, it was pre-internet. Don't forget that. And even to do a live shot in television was always problematic. And here you had this ongoing live scene that you just weren't used to seeing something in real time like that. Mm-hmm. The chopper shots and it was fascinating.
I'm still amazed at the idea that OJ called the switchboard at NBC to talk to Bob Costas while the game's going on, and they didn't believe him. They didn't believe that it was OJ, so they hung up on him. They hung up on OJ multiple times.
God, I'd forgotten about that.
You could have had him on during the NBA Finals, and you know what? It didn't even need it. The story didn't even need it because the story was so huge.
People on overpasses cheering him on. It was a murderer. The craziest thing.
Now, they were waiting for him, right? Because and this is before he had Google Maps, right?
Everybody, and CNN was still relative. Well, CNN started in 1980. This was 13 years later.
The other last thing I'll say, for context from my perspective, and you can speak to this too, Eli, is back then, and this is, I'm embarrassed to admit this a little bit, but back then, the differences between newspapers and television news were a little bit more stark from the folks from the newspaper's perspective, right? We thought we were a little bit more serious.
You were,
and we'd look down on TV reporters, which we should not.
For a good note, you should have, because we stole from you constantly. We would read the free press and the news, and that's where we got our story ideas. The assignment desk at Channel 4 or Channel 2, where I was at the time, would look at the newspapers to see what's going, because you had dozens of reporters, or maybe 50s, 100 reporters. Hundreds of reporters. Hundreds. And we had 7 or 8 or 10. And so you would take a newspaper story, bring it to life with pictures, and take credit for it.
Maybe we're just a little jealous too, or envious. You guys had better hair. You were better looking. You were better paid, probably, right? So we look at a story like OJ at that point, like, well, that's a television story.
You're absolutely. Now,
that's interesting.
And I've told this before. When I first I got on TV in 1981, by 1983 or 4, when the Tigers were doing really well, and I was kind of the face of that on Channel 4, which had only 40 or 50 games a year, TV was exploding because videotape was new, satellites. I've talked about all that in the past. But walking on the field before a game early, arriving on Cochran Avenue where the media would park, and happened to walk in with Joe Falls, who had been in Detroit writing sports since 1952, nationally known, #1 in the city, biggest newspaper man there was in terms of sports, and nobody in the stands recognized him. Wow. They were saying, "Hey, Eli, what's going on? Hey," and I was embarrassed because here's the great Joe Falls, and they're talking to me, and that's why they resented us, and for good reason. And it was interesting, as you allude to, because there was a lot of tension. And in the press boxes, they were run by the Baseball Writers Association of America, ran the press boxes. And TV and radio guys didn't get the prime seats, didn't get the approvals and all that the other guys did. But
times have changed.
They sure have changed.
I don't know if do you guys remember he was an actor, comedian. His name is John Hodgman.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know who he is.
He delivered the speech at the press association, or not the press association, the correspondence dinner at the White House. Great comic Tommy. Anyway, he delivered that speech, and he based it all, and I've never forgotten this. Obama was in the White House, and his whole speech was about jocks versus nerds, and he was trying to get at the fact, was Obama a jock or was he a nerd? And he said to the audience, okay, TV reporters are obviously jocks. Newspaper reporters are nerds. And and there's some truth to that. And that always sort of stuck with me.
And Jerry Green of the Detroit News used to refer to his ilk as the ink-stained wretches.
Right, exactly. So that's a little context for you, Mark, in terms of why I initially thought the way I did about OJ. I just thought of it as television.
Can you think, I mean, there's been no other star, a guy that people worshipped that has fallen so hard and so fast than OJ. And maybe that might be why people
Tiger
were
fell pretty hard for, I mean, it wasn't murder, but you remember he had to make an appearance?
Yeah.
He had a press conference to apologize. I mean, you're talking about a single person $1 billion enterprise that was, I mean, he was the biggest star, an athletic star in the world at the time.
Right. And, he fell, and then now, he's still a hero again, and they can't stop gushing over him. He can be in last place in the golf tournament, and all you see is Tiger every shot. And it's the hero worship aspect that I want to get into a little bit today. That is kind of turns my stomach a little bit, even though I understand it for what it is. And as a kid, I was a geek. I was a hero worship. Of course, as a reporter, you kind of see the real side of people. And my ultimate example is growing up in New York. Yogi Berra was, a national hero. The guy was amazing and a really wonderful player and a very good guy, but kind of a goofball, but loved. And so here I am in the visitors' locker room, early '90s, and he's an assistant. He's a Yankee coach, and here's the great Yogi Berra walking out of the coach's room, half naked, scratching his balls over the cold cut tray. And I go, if only those fans could see the real Yogi Berra here, this little squat, ridiculous looking man.
A human being
scratching
eating
himself,
bologna.
eating bologna. And a dingy, the visitors' clubhouse at Tiger Stadium was pathetic.
Well, Eli, the thing for us too, what's interesting is, I'm with you on the hero worship. On the other hand, if there weren't hero worship, we wouldn't have jobs, right?
True. Absolutely.
That's the thing. Have you ever thought about the fact, Mark, right? You watch a game, why do you really want to read about it the next day or go see a report on television about it the next day? You ever think about how sort of strange that is?
Oh, no, lots of reasons. Because the reporters go into the locker room afterwards and get quotes and get perspective. You don't see, when you're at a game, you don't really see everything that's happening. And I would love to do that, to go see a game and then read what people said about it, to get their ideas and opinions.
You want to know, even though you just watched it with your own eyes, you want to know what other people think about it, right? And that's why we have jobs. It's because folks are fanatical that way. And
we have jobs because sports is, it's the new religion. Mm-hmm. I hate to put it that way and sound like a heretic, which I am, but it is. Religion used to be 150 years ago where people went for entertainment, for worshiping deities, for hating the devils and dressing for it and all that. And now, as religious attendance declines, which I think is a good thing, sports has just exploded with the same stuff. People are in there for the same reasons. They carry signs. They dress in costume. They paint their faces. They wear team colors. They all the same words. like commitment, spirit, praying for your heroes, the suffering, the celebration. It's all the vocabulary, and it's kind of the other day I'm watching.
It's very tribal too. Right?
Tribal too, ritualistic, and all. I'm watching the game 3, I think, or game 3 of the Edmonton Panthers series, and in
that's hockey, Mark.
Hockey.
I've been watching.
So when those fans in Edmonton in unison sang "O Canada" with this heartfelt, deep love of country, and they're belting it out in perfect unison, I'm thinking this is quite the ritual. This is This is escaping what sports is. You're escaping your humdrum lives, your frustrations, and you're going into another world. And how about this week? How about this week with Tom Brady? 60,000 people spent up to $100 each to go to a stadium, not to see a game, not to see these people do what they do, but to hear speeches and to hear Tom Brady talk and to see him hug Belichick. I'm thinking, this is religion.
He was inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame,
right?
Correct?
That's all it was, the Patriots Hall of Fame.
How many people were there?
60,000 people, sold out. 100 former teammates and coaches, live streamed on the Patriots site, a red carpet pregame show, Belichick, Peyton Manning, all there, and the 60,000 fans just eating it up.
What's incredible is that's 10 times the amount of people that watched or attended what he did yesterday, which was his broadcast debut in the the UFL championship game. There's nobody there. Nobody's watching it. It's because we like this idea of him being perfect, him being a deity, him winning all these Super Bowls. Nobody wants to think about, oh God, now he's just a guy broadcasting, or now he's just a guy who's having a divorce. Now he's just a guy. He is also just a human being.
Did you watch the roast?
Oh, I love the roast. I thought it was great.
Did you watch the roast?
I did not. I saw the first 5 minutes, and as soon as Kevin Hart said, "Oh, Tom Brady's doing a lot of fucking these days," that's Brady's doing a lot of fucking. I'm going. I've been to roasts before, and the F-bombs get the insults becomes. Although I hear that Nikki Glaser was good, and there were some moments. Yeah. The last thing
she was good.
You'd have to duct tape me to a chair to have to watch 3 hours of Brady being praised.
Eli, is this whole idea of it, sports really is entertainment. I think it's the best form of entertainment because you don't know, there's no some people disagree, but there's no predicted outcome, right?
Of course.
It's a live event where you don't know who's going to win, but it ultimately is you're sitting there watching human beings do something, and it's kind of what acting is, movies, plays, but it's also what religion was to begin with. It was somebody up there preaching.
Right.
I just think that's part of the human nature. Do you think athletes are more celebrated today than they were, 50 years ago, 100 years ago?
I think so, because we see more of them. They're more visible. All their games are on television.
But there's more of them, right? There isn't a Babe Ruth, and you didn't know all the bad stuff about Babe Ruth while he was living it. That was more a deity than, say, who is the biggest baseball star today? Ohtani?
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah, I just, we know so much about these people.
Doesn't that add to the entertainment that you know so much about?
I think it adds to the entertainment aspect of it, but I don't know if it adds to the deity aspect of it, because you learn that, these people fuck up. And what's weird is how much we celebrate when people do mess up. We like to see people fall and then rebuild themselves.
When you put people into godlike stature, and I don't want to get into politics, but look at Donald Trump, okay? Look at how he is looked at as a godlike figure by evangelicals, even though he breaks every one of the commandments every day. It's so it seems.
But that's hero
God. Worship. That's where how people become create godlike auras about them.
Which is why someone could look at Tom Brady and ignore maybe some of the. He's a bad example, but some of the less, favorable aspects of him.
Of course. Listen, isn't Chris Chelios the perfect example? People in Detroit hated that son of a bitch Blackhawk. Fuck him and the way he plays and the way he pushes our guy. He comes in here and people will lick his shoes when he came to Detroit to be a star here. So it depends what uniform he's wearing too. But
I was just going to say real quickly, I'm with Mark on this. I think.
Oh wow! Finally, something we agree on.
If you look at it, this is how I look at it: is a percentage of the people that are interested in sports that it's changed. In other words, Tom Brady's out of the NFL now. There's nobody remotely like him. Patrick Mahomes may end up being better, but is he? He's held aloft. Baseball doesn't. You said Ohtani. Baseball doesn't have a star. No, the NBA has. The NBA has a couple of older stars. LeBron, I guess, and Curry. But even LeBron and Curry, they're quite the same as Magic and Bird. They're not in terms of the percentage of folks who live in the country who watch a single team or watch a single player. That's changed because there's so many more entertainment options. We're distracted by a lot more things. So I don't think that sporting figures have the same hold over us collectively as they used to.
Maybe so. That's a tough one to pick apart. But also, on a regular basis, you're getting new faces that become the story of the moment that spill over. And I'll give you a perfect example is Caitlin Clark.
I knew you were going to say Caitlin
We did
Clark.
not know about her long ago. And now she has become the center of not. And by the way, I told Mark, he asked me if I saw when Angel Reese slugged her across the head yesterday and knocked her. I said, I was actually watching the game. Now, if you told me
I cannot believe that.
this time of year that I'd be watching any WNBA game, whether it's the seventh game or the finals, I would say there's no way. I have become interested in this league and actually somewhat impressed by the level of play. But what's bigger is how Caitlin Clark has suddenly become, since she got into that league, the WNBA, the center of a culture clash involving race and gender and
sexuality.
Absolutely, race and sexuality. She is white in an 80% black league. She is also straight with a boyfriend in a league that they claim
About
in surveys to be
35, right?
38% identify as lesbian, although maybe more do and don't. And it's probably equal between white and black. I don't know as many, same percentage. But this everybody from Stephen A. Smith to Charles Barkley to Jason Whitlock to Billie Jean King to Serena Williams, everybody has weighed in on it as this phenomenon happens where we talked about when Kennedy Carter pushed her to the floor the other day, and Angel Reese, her teammate, was cheering as she knocked her down. And what's also so
The players hate her. I think the players don't like her. And I think it's good for the sport. They really do.
And national news, Asia Wilson, who I hadn't heard of, maybe peripherally was the best player. She's won 2 MVPs. She's won championship. I wasn't complaining that all the attention is going to Clark, and that people with perspective like Barkley and LeBron say, "Shut up, ladies. She's bringing attention to your sport." When Tiger came into golf, you think those players said, "Look at this little bastard. He's winning all the tournaments. It's all about him, and I'm here. I don't got any chance now." And then they started to say, "Wait a minute."
There was a lot of jealousy with Woods, right?
Right. And then eventually they said, "Wait a minute. He's making us rich."
There's a lot of jealousy with who?
Woods early on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Remember when Fuzzy Zeller said, go eat...
I'm a jokester.
Go eat the watermelon?
Yeah, right.
No, he
Something
said
that.
when you win the Masters, you get to make the meal. And he said, maybe next year we'll have fried chicken and watermelon. And then he snapped his fingers and walked away laughing because he thought it was a killer joke.
I tell you what's interesting.
And he had to apologize.
You know what? Because I sit here thinking about the Caitlin Clark thing probably more than I should. And you try to think of a comparison. Tigers probably is a good comparison, but it's nothing to this level. Nobody was like, this black guy is taking over this white sport.
No, but they were using coded language to say it, and there was a lot of...
Yeah.
So there was some of that.
But this is the exact opposite.
There was race to the point that Nike actually made a commercial. Remember?
What was it?
About, I'm not welcome in your country clubs, right?
Yeah, right.
That was basically the theme, which he was right. But there was that. Part of it was race, and part of it was, here's a 21-year-old who's more gifted than any player we've ever seen, who's starting to win right away, won the Masters, basically out of the chute.
And how about this? Oh, no, the blacks are taking over our sport now.
Wait
a minute. Someday it's going to be, we're all going to be, which is, isn't that MAGA
Reminds
right
me
now?
of Paul. Remember Paul Mooney, the comedian, a writer for Richard Pryor? He had a bit one time. He said, he was talking about how we fucked up your golf and now we're fucking up your tennis.
That's right.
Referring to the Williams sisters, right? Which I always thought was
okay
awesome.
with a token like Arthur Ashe, but don't they start taking over
I
the
always
sport?
thought that was awesome. No, but he faced a huge backlash at first. Partly race, partly because he was so good, so young, and hadn't paid his dues. Right?
For the race aspect, I think that's a good comparison. But then I've been thinking about, because Drew's been kind of railing on this too, as the reaction from these WNBA players are like, you don't know about the history of our league and all these other great players that came before. And I'm like, God, what would the comparison be? Maybe when Babe Ruth started getting good and were people walking around going, you don't know about Old House Rayburn. See, he really won 57 games. Nobody said that then. It was just an excitement about it. And a lot of people watch baseball. So then I thought of another one. Lionel Messi signs with the MLS, which is a joke. I like soccer. It's a joke of a league. But you know what? They embraced him because they know they need him for survival. Right. And does the NBA not realize that they need Caitlin Clark, or do they think they'll be subsidized by the NBA?
Oh, no, they do. That's why the saner voices from the sidelines are telling the players, and listen, you can totally understand them wanting to show the rookie what's up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good. I love it.
100%.
That's why it should be.
I want that, yeah.
But, I love what Reese said yesterday. Because she went to swat the ball away. Caitlin was driving for a layup. She reached up to swat the ball, missed the ball, and then the side of her forearm knocked Clark to the ground. I don't think it was...
It's a normal basketball play. It's a foul and it's a basketball play, though.
And I think when they looked at her, because her forehead hit her in the head, then it's raised to a flagrant 1. That's just following the rules. But then Reese afterwards, and by the way, Caitlin Clark, she didn't expect to be the center of these cultural wars, and she said that this week. I don't want to be the agenda for you, and she praises Reese and everybody else. She's taking
She took only a little flack for that at first.
Listen, she's a rookie. She's trying to make it in the league. All this shit's happening aside from her, and she doesn't want anything to do with it. And I don't blame her. But anyway, it's you can understand the black players trying to teach her a lesson, being jealous or envious of her attention. And so it takes a little perspective to say, in the long run, she's good for us. People are watching now. What were you saying? I think attendance is up 200%, more than 200%. 94% of the games are selling.
And the ratings
it was on TV. It was on yesterday amid the U.S. Open, amid the Tigers and everything else. Here you got a WNBA game on CBS television in the middle of a sports day.
The fever in the sky game. But it's, I don't know about jealousy or whatever, but I understand the frustration some, right? Because they're great players and they see Caitlin Clark and they think part of the fan base is because she's white. And,
it's true.
Mark and I talked about this. So you can understand it. Not only that, the endorsements, right? That's another part of this. The endorsement money she's gotten, and they're better players than her, and they're like, okay, where's ours? So it's human nature to say.
I think that's probably maybe more of a legitimate gripe, I guess, because corporate America likes this very marketable person over some of these other great players and people, frankly, haven't heard of.
Like Asha Wilson, right?
But as far as the overall attention to the league, that's how you get to know these other players.
Right. And
why would you criticize
I'm watching. I'm very...
I mean, nobody's saying Lionel Messi got this huge deal from Adidas to come over to the MLS.
Because there's not the white-black dynamic is part of it, right? I mean, that's just part of our reality.
Right.
No, but here's this guy.
It is because she's white.
Over a league.
She's getting the attention because she is white and she's a unicorn. She shoots the ball from farther away and makes more of them than the other players. She's different. And so she's an attention-seeking hot missile, and that's been good for everybody.
It has. I remember when my youngest son, who's a high school basketball coach, he was out in Portland at a college basketball tournament a few years ago. Michigan State was out there. And he was more excited because there was at the same time there was a concurrent women's tournament, and Iowa was there. And he started telling me, yeah, they've got. And Clark was a junior. It was early in her junior year, and she hadn't blown up yet. But basketball, people that love basketball knew her.
Yeah,
and that was what he was most excited about. And he started telling me about it. He said, no, I've never seen anybody play like her before.
Really?
Because she shoots threes off the bounce. He said she plays like Steph Curry.
Right, and she shoots them from 10 feet beyond the line.
And off the dribble, she's so good with the ball, all that. So he wasn't thinking about white, black, whatever. He was just like, she's new. She's different.
What's interesting about her being compared to Steph Curry is there's a lot of there's things not to their game, but to their attitude while they're playing that aren't the greatest things. I mean, they're both kind of whiners. They're both shit talkers, and I don't feel like
who's both shit?
Caitlin Clark is a major shit talker.
Well, a trash talker in the court.
Yeah,
like Larry Bird is. We didn't know Larry Bird was a trash talker until later on in his career.
Yeah, but she'll get in people's faces, and so will Steph.
He said Curry and Clark are both kind of whiners.
I don't think Clark is a well. she was getting the shit kicked out of her. So she,
they're both instigators though, and nobody thinks of those aspects when they think of those.
Well, what are you talking about? When Curry shimmies after a shot or whatever?
Yeah.
He gets away with it because
she gets in people's faces too, which I think it's a good thing. I think it makes him
everybody
well-rounded.
Curry smiles a lot too when he's doing it, right? Like people pick up on that joy and that fun.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because it's all perspective, because people would see that and go, that's just the intensity of the game, which fine, okay. I mean, I just see it once again as entertaining.
Do you remember when in the NBA back in the 90s when European players started to come, the way they would get treated? Remember even Tony Kukoc when he went to the Bulls by his own teammates.
Well, Pippen was a
soft
baby.
white guy from York's going to come over here. Right? I mean, it took a long, long time for white European players to get accepted in the NBA by NBA players. By NBA players, right? I mean, there were certain perceptions about them. There were stereotypes about them. Not just being slow, that they weren't tough.
And then they ruined the league by being super tall and being able to make three-pointers all the time.
The bottom line of all of it, the complaining, the jealousy, the black, the lesbians and the black players bitching is all perfect. It's better for the league than if they hadn't said a word and they respected Clark and treated her with kid gloves. It's creating storylines. She is a prop. She is the nexus of stories and opinions that bring attention to the league and bring interest to the league. As Billie Jean King said when she was castigating those that are criticizing Clark or getting it, this generation is so important for the WNBA. We have a chance to set this league on fire. You have to set an example. Children are watching. How do you want to be remembered? She's saying, don't blow it with animosity. Just play ball. I would say, keep on beating up Caitlin Clark. Keep on bitching about it. Because it only makes more interest, and that's what you're trying to get.
And just like religion, you can't have a God without a devil, right? You got to have the good and the bad to make it all entertaining.
And they can switch roles. Now, did either of you watch the U.S. Open yesterday?
No.
I don't talk about the U.S. Open on the Drew and Mike show or the Drew Lane podcast because golf isn't a mainstream topic that Drew really likes.
Not since Tiger was in his prime, right?
But it's my favorite sport to watch, and the U.S. Open yesterday was a perfect example of all this. DeChambeau used to be kind of a braggy, just a weird guy, very caught up with himself and not,
liked himself a little too much.
And he kind of forced down our throats the differences he had. He's so unique. He's such a unicorn. Also, that all of his clubs are the same length. He completely. Nobody can change the way the game has been played for 150 years and think it's going to work. He did. He made every club the same size. He's into physics and all this stuff. Fascinating. And yet, he goes to LIV, which is the league that everybody, thought was ruining golf and to a degree has. Now, he's so popular. And so you can flip-flop. Apparently he has a YouTube channel, and he's pumping his fist with the crowd, and he's talking. In the middle of this tournament, and in fact near the end, 3 or 4 hours ago, he walks through the people and is high-fiving. They never do that in the middle of a tournament, so he's kind of a different sort of guy. And that end of that tournament, I mean, talk about the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. It was stunning how it ended with Rory McIlroy, the at least beloved, I think, to a degree, although he's been admired in a lot of controversy lately.
Yeah, with his divorce.
To miss a 2-foot 4-inch putt that probably 90 out of 100 high handicappers could have made,
He missed 2 of them. He missed 2 in the last 3 holes.
Right, and the one he missed on 18 after making a great third shot, he was 4 feet behind the hole, and DeChambeau, who made an even more amazing shot, a 55-yard bunker shot, which is almost impossible, was 4 feet below the hole. He made his, but Rory's was a tough putt. It was downhill. He aimed to the left of the cup and missed it on the right, so it was a downhill breaker, and just that little difference there. If he was at 4 feet under instead of 4 feet over, it might have been a different ending.
See, this is what's great about sports. Is I love the passion in which you talk about that, because I could talk about something in soccer and it just goes over people's heads. They don't care about the sporting of it. Why is golf your favorite sport? Is it simply because you play it?
It's the only one I can still play, and the difference would I mean I played baseball, but I can't relate to batting against Justin Verlander.
Okay.
I can't relate to running to the outfield fence and leaping and making a catch the way they do. But I can also have a 9-iron from 120 yards away with the same situation on the same course that Rory McIlroy has and try and make that shot. And so playing the game, I am so in awe of their consistency, their skill, their length, their strength, and their ability to play under pressure, which is why McIlroy missed 2 putts. He will never not live this down.
Yeah.
And as media friendly as he is, he left the golf course afterwards, did not talk to the media.
I saw
this
that.
is a life-changing moment for him where it could have been his 5th major. He'd waited 10 years to win it, and here it has it in his grasp with a 2-shot lead and makes a mental mistake. He used driver on the 18th. He shouldn't have. He hadn't all week. Hit it into the shit. Cost him. And it's just incredible drama. And that's the religion of sports. People are just, in awe and in rapt attention as these heroes either spill their guts out and lose or do something dramatic and win.
The other thing that caught my eye at the end of that tournament that I think everybody can relate to, and I was thinking about this. So the tournament was in North Carolina, right? At
Pinehurst, yes.
Pinehurst. When DeChambeau won, a lot of the crowd started chanting USA, USA, USA. And my wife said, why are they chanting that?
Rory.
And I said, well, my oldest son is a big golf guy. I said, well, it's because McIlroy's British. And that's why. She said, but why are they chanting that? Isn't the Olympics? It was really curious to her. And I was thinking about that.
I thought it was shitty.
I didn't like it at all. I thought, well, would they do that in Europe? If you were in England or Spain or whatever, would they start chanting?
I don't know what those soccer fans would do.
Maybe if it's an American versus an American team versus, but I've never seen anything like that at the British Open. When a Brit beats an American.
What are they going to chant? EU.
Well, that's England or the UK or.
The other reason you always have to look at is it's 7:00 at night. They've been there since 10:00 in the morning, and they're serving beer. And by the time you get to the end of the tournament, you really can't see much because everybody's gathered around the few places, which is what I never watch golf at the golf course because you can't see shit. And so they're drunk.
I understand it at the Ryder Cup. But it was just a little odd in a regular golf major like that they were going to chant that.
That goes back to the top when you talk about the passion, the reason you're there. I mean, you want to have these people that are very passionate. And, And a reason we're here. How's this for a segue? Thanks to our sponsors.
Nice.
We'll start with, Eli, do you want to talk about Yaldo?
Sure, I'll talk about my guy. Absolutely. Millions of people, this is true, get lens implants every year. Now, most of them are seniors. They got cataracts. Their lenses are aged, damaged, and they are quickly and easily replaced with new ones. They get this clear distance vision, the same thing they had in their youth. It's a modern medical miracle, and it changes their lives. Well, it's become very routine, millions a year, like I say, totally safe. But in this decade, the last decade, technology has taken it further. These bifocal lens implants not only give you great distance vision, but for people like you out there, 40 plus with bad near vision, as in I can't read the menu or my phone anymore. These implants are the rage, as well they should be, and nobody has implanted more of them than Michigan's most experienced and honored eye surgeon, Dr. Yaldo. So go to YaldoEyeCenter.com, get a free evaluation, and think about hassle-free life with no glasses, contacts, or reading glasses, and the best vision of your life.
Beautiful. And let's say you're a big-time city official. You can travel on the people's dime, or maybe you're a political contributor who gets hooked up with government contracts. Well, that's good for you, but bad for the rest of us. So if you're not among the swells lining your pockets with taxpayer money, if you're someone who actually works for a living, call financial specialist and friend of the show, Luke Nowacki, at 248-663-4748. He'll discuss strategies how to grow your assets, from annuities to individual retirement accounts to college savings. So make that call now, because you have kids and the kleptocrats to feed. It's Luke Nowacki, 248-663-4748. And when you call Luke, he'll make it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Mosaic Wealth. Inc. member FINRA SIPC. Mosaic Wealth. Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent. Mosaic Wealth. Inc.
And back to sports. ML deals with people in Detroit who like to play games, but if you're not really You want to play those kind of games? You want to play games with ML? There's no better way than Come Play Detroit. Come Play Detroit is Elrick's choice for softball and volleyball, but they offer a wide range of sports, and they play all year round, offering everything from one-day tournaments to seasons that last 8 to 10 weeks. You can sign up as an individual or part of a small group, or even as a big old team. Either way, Come Play Detroit's friendly staff will help find the right fit for you. And if you know Elrick, he likes a good deal, just like the good deals that they'll provide at Come Play Detroit.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
All right, I have a Geek of the Week for you guys. And actually, it starts with a very bad person. It's former Lion, current Kansas City Chief, Isaiah Buggs.
What is up with him?
I saw that.
Yes. He's been arrested again. He had some charges last week. When are people going to learn not to fuck around with dogs and learn to take care of their dogs?
They were malnourished on
A Rottweiler and a pit bull. He had two of them, which, probably for fighting maybe. But he left this house that he was staying at and just left the dogs there. They were so underweight that one had to be put down. Then they were having a hearing to see if Isaiah could keep his other dog, which is like, no, you don't get to keep that dog. So that's going on. And then it turns out over the weekend, he just got arrested again, this time on domestic violence and a burglary charge in Alabama. So bad human being, but he's not the Geek of the Week. I think the Geek of the Week is his agent. His agent had to come out and say, hey, all this stuff that's going on is a subversive campaign to force the closure of a hookah lounge that he owns in Tuscaloosa. So talk about a major conspiracy that makes absolutely no sense.
I like that he owned a hookah lounge.
What's wrong with a hookah lounge? It's just tobacco, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know why the city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama is so up in arms about this that they have to have a subversive campaign to where they malnourish dogs to get him to close the hookah lounge. It's all bullshit, but that's an agent who's afraid, I guess, of losing his 3 to 5% from Isaiah Buggs, who was a great player when he was here. He was here for, 2 years?
Yeah, he had
a couple of years. Yeah, he was a good player.
Some nice plays.
I don't know if he was a great player, but he was
good.
A good player.
Sacked a few quarterbacks, as I recall.
Yeah.
Now him and his agent, Trey Robinson, are our Geeks of the Week.
There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
Sean's favorite segment.
When you pick the song, absolutely.
When I pick it, I'm picking a song that it gets panned a lot, but it also ends up on charts that are like, the awesomest, worst song ever, a bad song that people like. And I was trying to think of an angle that maybe is somewhat related to Eli. So this is the one I came down with.
Dirk Hamashar?
Huh? Why Dirk Hamashar?
I don't know.
No, I was thinking of this one because in sports lore, and I don't think I'm going to play the whole song because it is just that bad, but I think for all of us,
the final countdown.
It holds a certain, good feeling about a basketball team that nobody cares about in this town anymore.
What, the Pistons?
The Pistons in general, because not only did the bad boys use this, but they used it in 04, right?
I think so.
Yeah, they used it when Mason did the introductions back then. And today is the 20th anniversary of that parade, of the Pistons parade. I can't believe it's been 20 years.
That's amazing.
04 Pistons won it. So a little bit of final countdown by
Europe.
There you go, Eli.
Well, speaking of from the past, so I was thinking when you were talking about June 17th, I thought you might have been ready to ask about Father's Day. Because yesterday was, with the whole tournament there, was one of the most remarkable Father's Day television shows I'd ever seen, that U.S. Open. But in 1964, okay, you've talked about 2004 and 1994. Yeah. Go back 30 years to Father's Day, 1964. I was 14 years old, living on Long Island, and we got tickets with me and my older brothers to see the Mets play the Phillies in a doubleheader. And in game one of the doubleheader, Jim Bunning of the Phillies, who had pitched a no-hitter for the Tigers in 58, pitched a perfect game against the Mets. Now I was there, and to me that was just a memorable moment that I haven't forgotten. But now when I was doing some research on it yesterday, I realized at the time that was only the 5th perfect game of modern baseball, beginning in 1901. Cy Young had the first one. This was the 5th, and that now there have been 22 of them in the modern era, and there's even one this year. I think there's been a no-hitter this year, no perfect game. But anyway, which
I wanted to ask you about that no-hitter, because the Tigers are being no-hit through 7 by Ronel Blanco.
Yeah.
Who, didn't he throw the no-hitter earlier this year?
Yes, he threw a no-hitter in April 1st. Yeah.
This is what I don't understand. So he's pulled after 94 pitches, 7 innings. And sure, he's already thrown a no-hitter, so maybe it's like big deal. But he had the chance to throw the second one. Why pull him? Does that bother you? Because that kind of bothers me.
Well, sure. This is and Verlander and Scherzer and others have talked about it.
Happens all the time.
Starting pitching is not what it used to be. They have pitch counts and they don't let you go all the way. And it's just the way they protect arms, I guess. But that's just modern baseball. You've got to put your closer in. You've got to use them in this situation regardless. And it's just, I don't know why they follow those rules. But
considering how many surgeries and injuries there are with elbows and shoulders these days, right?
I know, but 94, he couldn't throw another 28 pitches.
It's what the analytics say, Mark. I'm sorry, it's just
analytics,
the way it is.
I got to tell you,
it's medicine though that's saying that. It's not right.
Right.
Is it though? Because in Japan, look how many innings Japanese pitchers throw. Who was it? Hideki? Is it Nomo? When Nomo came over, one of his big adjustments was pitching every 5 days instead of every 3 games. So. Is it really science? Is it really medicine that is doing it? Or is it really protecting an investment in a human emotional way that, oh boy, let's shut them, we're going to do it here? No, I don't know if it really is.
They're basing it on what they think is
what
medicine.
they think, though. But how come in Japan they can pitch far more innings?
Do they?
Yes. Well, maybe listen, Denny McLain threw 226 pitches against the Orioles in the game in 1966. So...
I know they're throwing harder. They're throwing harder than Denny would have thrown then, but still.
That's part of it, right? Everybody throws hard now.
Okay, then you know what? Don't throw so hard.
Also, I think the value of a no-hitter isn't what it used to be.
I know, but at the same time, there's 162
I mean, Tarek Skubal last week threw 101 mile an hour as a lefty. Or maybe 100.1.
Yeah. It might have been 102.
Yeah, maybe it was. Yeah. But imagine that, a 101 as a lefty.
That's a special talent, man.
I don't want to get into.
I just wish they would have left him out there though to see, if he throws really 10 more pitches, maybe he gives up a hit and then yank him. Is it really going to ruin the investment they have?
Maybe it won't.
No, but I think you follow. I don't think they go by gut instinct much anymore. They go by the analytics,
and that's what they're doing. And by the way, double thanks to you, Mark. First of all, for only making us listen to 2 seconds of Final Countdown. And second of all, that's the shortest Room 7609 we've ever had. So thank you.
Have you ever seen this version? This is known as the worst cover song of any song ever. You have these young kids on a stage with no one in attendance, but listen to this dude. I think it would have been great if the Pistons had a game and used that version to announce the players. Just something different, something fun. Let's see. Speaking of something different and something fun, how about the Michigan Peddler, right? Make sure to take advantage of summer. Book your tour on Detroit's favorite party bike. That would be the Michigan Peddler. 15 people can enjoy 2 hours of touring and pedaling through Corktown, Midtown, downtown Detroit, stopping for pictures and perhaps, beverage or two. ML and I have done it. It's quite the blast. And once again, the secret is you don't really have to pedal the bike. There's a little engine on there. The Michigan Peddler offers the longest tours in Detroit. They have seat backs at the friendliest staff. They're going to make your experience one to remember. They're located near the new redone train station, so they'll even go by there. They're the only bike tour that will do that. So book your tour at MichiganPeddler.com. That's Michigan, PEDALER.com. And as an exclusive to ML Soul of Detroit listeners, you get the only promo that they offer. Enter ML Soul in the promo code area, and you're going to receive $40 off the price of one of their 15-passenger party bike tours.
just a couple of things to clean up the last two topics before we move on. Number one.
Oh, you're such a pro. You got to clean up the topics.
Got to clean up the topic. When Caitlin Clark was knocked to the deck yesterday, I was thinking, and when you played Europe, I just thought of it because I thought of Rick Mahorn. And the difference between men's basketball and women's is if a Piston was knocked down by an opposing player, Rick Mahorn would make sure that opposing player would feel it, just like they do in hockey. And the women, I don't know what's wrong with her teammates, but nobody is standing up for Caitlin Clark. Nobody is returning the favor, and maybe that's the difference between women's and men's sports.
Is that her teammates' fault?
Or maybe the teammates, maybe they don't like her. Maybe they don't like
that's
all the teammates.
That's the teammate's fault. It absolutely is.
I think that's a good point. A lot of people haven't been talking about that. It's like, well, how come other people aren't standing up for her in the league?
Right.
You find that, I don't know.
I find that, and Mahorn and Lane Beer, who coached together, the Shock.
That's right, yeah.
And I think the Las Vegas Aces, too.
Lane Beer did do the Aces, yeah.
Explain to me the difference between the way men in basketball and women in basketball approach their sport.
Which is?
Rip Hamilton would get the ball on his spot from Chauncey Billups, and that's all he cared about. Chauncey could have been a serial killer, but if he gives him the ball on his spot, that's what men expect from each other on the court. They don't care what you do off the court. Whereas women, they said, like each other. They need to feel that they're friends with their teammates.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And that they want that feeling of cohesion, whereas the men, you can all go our own directions, but once we get to play, this is how we defend each other, support each other, and play with each other, and and that's all that matters. And so but it surprises me that people wouldn't back her up and deliver a blow to Kennedy Clark or to make Angel Reese pay for laughing when she got knocked down. But anyway,
that is a fascinating difference. I didn't think about because when you think about sports, you think of being a team, and you got to get along, and you got to work together for this common goal. But you're saying that
you don't have to be buddies. You don't have to be buddies and friends.
But outside of the arena or the stadium, you don't give a shit about
different interests.
But the women do.
They do. The women do.
Why?
At least
is this a female-male thing?
It's a female
in general?
thing. I think that's just the
but
nature.
That's a little bit of a general. I mean, Lambeer was probably not beloved by and he won with a team that had a lot of dysfunction, but they were so good it didn't matter, right? And they had a great coach. But I don't know that flies with a lot of teams today.
Isaiah Thomas and Vinnie Johnson hated each other, despised each other for reasons we don't need to go into. But when they played together with complete unity and cohesion. Nobody liked Isaiah except for maybe Lane Beer, but on the court, and he was.
So he's basing his experience on that particular team, and then the Shock, the team he coached.
No, there's more than that. No, they spent their career in the game. Mahorn.
No, they did. But don't you think that's changed a little bit? I mean, coaches talk all the time about it's hard to win. I heard Doc Rivers talking about this the other day. It's really, really hard to win if your locker room's a mess. He's not talking about on the court. He's saying if your guys aren't together and they can't set their egos aside and have some kind of connection.
But
Steve Kerr was big with that. He took his team to movies and to dinner night every week and whatever. When he got to Golden State. He talked about that a lot. Phil Jackson used to talk about that. He had a dysfunctional team too, right?
Well, yeah.
But I feel like that's changed some. I see that at the high school level. Coaches are always preaching you can't win if you're not together.
Well, and it depends what your definition of together is. Once you're there to practice and once you're there to play, you're together because it's about the game. It's not about the individual. And their point was, I'm just taking it from Lane Beer and Mahorn, is that the women wanted a closer personal connection. And the men didn't really care about that as much.
That makes sense, but maybe the men these days care more about it than they did 30 years ago.
Maybe. The other thing that I wanted to clean up was McIlroy will never live this down for the rest of his life, especially if he doesn't win another major. Does it rank with the great blunders of all time? Does it rank with the ball going under Bill Buckner's glove? Does it rank with Joe Pisarcik handing off the Giants game and Herm Edwards taking it back when they could have taken a knee? Is it Fred Merkle not touching second base, costing the Giants a pennant in 1908? Is it Jim Marshall running the other way for the Vikings years ago? There's so many things like that. It was Chris Webber calling a timeout.
Scott Norwood.
So I think this is a moment that was so intense, and especially the way he reacted to it. They'll never forget that he didn't even stay for the post game thing. So does it rank, and will it last? And is it as monumental as I'm making it out to be?
What do you think, Mark?
I think it's pretty big, but you know what?
I just don't think it will.
It won't, just maybe because of the status of golf. But then when you think about it,
U.S. Open, man.
But golf doesn't seem to have like the biggest chokes? Is that just the nature of the sport and the individual aspect of it? Because you think of remember Jean Van de Velde?
Right.
There's a whole list of. I mean, I'm not a golf historian, so I can't think of them. But I feel like there's been a lot of golf choking.
You remember Van de Velde because at that time golf.
Choked?
Yeah, but the sport of golf was a little bit different in our collective psyche at that point. This is what goes back to my point earlier about the percentages who share these things. You're talking about Bill Buckner. Baseball was different back then in terms of the number of people that watched and that were. Baseball had stars. Baseball had people that were doing commercials. When's the last time hockey had, speaking of, remember Sports Illustrated used to have hockey players on its cover.
Yeah.
When's the last time that happened?
I remember the big article they had probably around 94, 95 with the split cover of NBA versus NHL and how the NHL was taking over the NBA then, which is just.
Ooh.
I mean, we just don't have the same personalities that are shared. The interest that's shared by so many people. It's really, we feel that in our business. We measure that, right? The Lions are the one team, at least from the Free Press's perspective, where the numbers and the reach of the fans and the interest in the readership is still more or less the same.
You know, and the other teams are more niche. I mean, the Red Wings fans are just as passionate, except there just aren't as many of them.
Exactly, it's niche. It's a good way to put it, Eli. It's interesting how that's happened.
Well, I think it's just been one of the more amazing things. I think is how huge football has just become in dwarfing everything.
Baseball used to give football it was more popular at one point, right?
I mean, whatever the NFL does, it wins. I mean, the draft is an event that
we had almost 800,000 people downtown.
The best event the city's had in decades
for a draft,
and it's the NBA or the NFL just dwarfs everything. And you know what's getting there? I think college football. College football is you know the faces of college football better than you know the faces of the NHL.
You're talking about football, though. Football is first of all, football is the perfect studio game.
Yeah,
it televises beautifully. It's just the 100-yard field, the way they got the cameras now, and the intricacies and the first down line and the replays and the violence and all that. It's the greatest studio show. We were talking about this on the Drew and Mike show, the Drew Lane podcast, where you've got 65,000 people in the stadium, and the players, they're just the stage play. They're just the audience, the studio audience. It's the 17 million people watching on television. So football televises perfectly, and it's a national game. The others are all local. People don't care about the Tigers in other markets, but people will watch the Lions play the 49ers or the Patriots play.
If you're living in Florida, they will, right?
Right, anywhere. And that's the brilliance of the way it was. Pete Rozelle set it up with a national TV contract.
Do you think college football gets to that point where it becomes a national sport? I mean, that's my sport, top to bottom, college football. But I know who all these players are. Do more people know who, say, Jalen Milroe is versus Connor McDavid?
No, because there's more teams, I think. But
college football is taking a hit too, though. The numbers show that out. Actually, the Alabama-Michigan Rose Bowl was the most watched college football game in 10 years.
It doesn't matter how they fuck up college football. It just gets more popular.
Well, that goes back to your other original point of as sports as religion and tribalism. I mean, there's no better example in this country than I would say college football.
I love how Drew always calls the Michigan fans a cult.
Sure.
And it's true. They're a cult.
It is true.
Where their heroes do no wrong and all the other guys are enemies.
Meanwhile, college basketball has completely fallen off except for the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
there are no stars in college basketball anymore.
Right.
Which maybe
now very few coaches that are, up until a few years ago, there were 6-7 coaches that were iconic names. They were the biggest stars in the sport.
We've had a lot of retirement.
And the rivalries don't mean what they used to be. Duke, North Carolina was Krzyzewski and Dean Smith and
and you had juniors and seniors that were going to be top 5 picks in the NBA draft the next year, and that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah, it goes in cycles, right? Don't you think that'll come back? Do you think that will?
I don't know. You go back and look at the numbers for like the Duke, Michigan, Fab Five, that championship game, and there were the numbers from college basketball in the early 90s. They were huge.
NIL is already showing, the name, image, and likeness is already showing that players will stay longer because they can make money there. I mean, there might be a guy. I mean, look at Hunter Dickinson, right? Not really an NBA talent, but he could have gone to Europe and played, but instead he gets $1 million to go to Kansas, to leave Michigan to go to Kansas. I mean, there might be somebody along the way that is going to get $4 million to keep playing in college to increase. I think it will happen.
And it could go in a number of directions, whereas pro football is set. Salary cap is what it is. You know, the teams are what they are, and it isn't in flux the way college football is.
They play 16 games a year and hold our attention all year long.
Eli had one last thought.
Yes.
Well, no, I was gonna move on to a topic that has fascinated me.
What are you, Elrick? You want to keep us here all day?
Yeah, we're
done as a show.
I'm just
over?
kidding. No, go ahead. No, I'm being a dick.
This is why I said it's Eli's final thoughts. This is Eli's final thoughts.
As Mark knows, gambling.
Oh, it's the best.
Is absolutely fascinates me beyond measure. And I'll use Mark as an example of a healthy gambler. You know, you're slightly out of the demo. You're a little bit older. 40% of sports bettors are under 35. And let's see, and 44% earn $100,000 a year or more, which definitely leaves Mark out.
True.
The point is this used to be, and I've been a sports reporter for as of 50 years this year. I remember when the leagues were so worried about gambling, although they did let Jimmy the Greek make the odds, give the odds and the point spreads.
But he could never directly do it. He would have to say like, that's what they're going for today, and hold up like the number 4.
Yeah.
They absolutely realize that the integrity of if the games aren't on the level, if you mess with the integrity of the results, then sports die.
Yep.
And so that's why they would never put a team in Las Vegas. Now every league is there. They would never advertise gambling of course, didn't exist. Now they're in bed with all the gambling entities. And now they're starting to see how players are involved. The one thing players can't do, and this week, Major League Baseball banned for life Padres infielder Tucupita Marcano. He bet $90,000 in a couple of hundred Major League games, and that's it. His career is over. 4 other minor leaguers were suspended for placing bets on Major League games. One was his pitcher, Mike Kelly, who finally made it to the majors this year at 31, doing well as a reliever for the A's, banned from the game for a year because he bet $99 on Major League Baseball games. So, and you had the Raptors' Jonte Porter barred for life for sharing confidential information. Here's a guy who made millions of dollars, but he still gave this information to those outside that could use it and perhaps benefit him also. And now Major League Baseball, it was revealed this week, has barred umpire Pat Hoberg, who's one of the best. He got the highest grades in the 2022 World Series for his precise strike calls. We don't know what it is. They're not saying because it's ongoing, and he's hoping to be exonerated. But there you have that. So the overall numbers, now that it's on your smartphone and it's legal, it's been about 10 years. I think FanDuel and DraftKings were allowed to do fantasy sports about 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Then the Supreme Court 5-6 years ago made it gambling. 37 states have it. I just think this is a huge addiction, and it's going to really hurt, I don't know, millions of people perhaps. But it's just amazing to see how the con men that run sports have swiveled from publicly abhorring gambling to shamelessly buying in since the legalization.
Well, you know why. It's all about money.
It's all about the money.
They want their cut. Now, I will say there is one good thing about the leagues being all in on this and accepting all the advertising money. It's that they've made deals. Like every example you had there, you know how those people got caught? By the gambling companies working with the league.
Absolutely.
Because they can see where bets are coming from, how much is being placed, and there's algorithms that say this is an anomaly, this isn't right, let's look into this, and then they notify the league. So it does kind of help with their battle against the integrity.
Right. Well, they have to. I mean, they're in this life battle here. We gambling is real. They're gambling on us. We need our piece of the action, but we have to be more vigilant than ever to make sure that anybody who's even suspected of this is dealt with.
And gambling is one of the things that has helped the NFL grow even bigger than what it was. And that's kind of why I think it might even help college football keep growing, because it's just easier to gamble on football than it is on any other sport. Shawn.
It is. No, that's a good final thought.
Well, on that note, I do need to say welcome to our Patreon, August. He is our newest member.
Thank you, August,
of our Patreon family. So if you want to sign up, where you can watch all this madness happen, go to patreon.com and search ML Sola Detroit. We are on there. You also get the audio episodes without any of the insertion ads, and you get it first. So there's a couple different levels you can see when you go check that out. And Shawn, you can have the honors.
Cyrus, take us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You guys suck!
Thank you. You should quit now. I think I'll take my chances in the tournament. Yeah, you will take your chances. That's what I just said. That's what I'm saying to you. All right? Touche.
Eli Zaret.
You dig me?
You do have brief moments where you're not completely...
When I'm not completely what? Pathetic.
Shawn Windsor.
Like the rough stuff, huh? Real. Freaking naughty. This summer.
I love you!
I love you too! Joni loves Chachi!
Grab life by the balls. You ready for the hurricane?
Pepper needs new shorts.
The soul of Detroit.
Well, at least that wasn't weird.